Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Earlier this week, January 3rd, 2018, Mount St. Helens had one of its largest earthquakes since the last period of it erupting. If you're not aware, the largest volcanic eruption in the history of the United States was Mount St. Helens, May 18th, 1980. That mountain's in Washington State, the southern portion of the state, not far from Oregon. A lot of people have asked me about this volcano in the time I've been doing this research and exposing all the manipulated earthquakes, weather anomalies, volcanoes from around the world. And I don't know what's taken me so long to get to this incident. It's probably because it's close to home. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, southwestern Washington, not far from this mountain. Nice thing about Portland is on a clear day, you can see Mount St. Helens, you can see Mount Hood, you can see Mount Adams, all sorts of mountains around you. The most volcanically active Mount St. Helens. And over the years, it's had its little things where it shoots off plumes of smoke and ash. Mount St. Helens isn't the real threat in the region, though. The biggest threat in the Pacific Northwest that's a mountain is Mount Rainier. It's why Seattle is rated as one of the 30 most dangerous places to live in the entire world. If Mount Rainier erupted as it did a long time ago, Tacoma, Seattle, all surrounding communities could potentially be wiped out in a very quick period of time. Mass casualties. I went to college down in Arizona State University, and the geology professor down there, he used to always warn us all, never live in Seattle. He said it's the last place you want to move to on the face of the earth. And anyway, that's where I live now. But let's talk about this, Mount St. Helens. Let's talk about the eruption this week, and then let's talk about the parallel to the May 18th, 1980 eruption, the worst in the history of the United States. So, January 3rd, kind of like 13. We're going to get to why that matters in regards to Washington a little bit, but January 3rd, 18, should have wrote 2018. The date numerology is 1 plus 3 plus 20 plus 18. January 3rd, 2018. Date with numerology of 42. One of the biggest eruptions since 1981. Talk more about those. But 42 matters because St. Helens in Gematria sums to 42. Washington is the 42nd state. Freemason equals 42. George Washington, the Freemason, the headquarters of Freemasonry in Washington, D.C., the 42nd state, Washington, the opposite side of the country named after him. The Freemason symbol is this right here. The compass with the square with the big G, 42. And consider the letters D, C. In Sumerian Gematria, what you do is you take the alphabetic letter and you multiply by 6. G is the 7th letter. 7 times 6 is 42. D is the 4th letter. C is the 3rd. So in that cipher, D plus C is 7 times 6, 42. DC 42 named after Washington, just like the 42nd state's named after him. Very important number to Freemasonry. We get this quake on a fitting date for the state. Some pictures of George Washington under the Masonic arch between the Masonic pillars. Tributes to Solomon's temple, Boaz and Joachim. Notice the big G above his head, George G. Here he is with his Freemason attire, his apron, like they wear in the Masonic lodges, which often have the checkerboard, chessboard-looking floor. Chessboard 59 like Freemasonry. In Hebrew, which is a letters and numbers alphabet, Freemasonry also sums to 59. So with regard to it being the date January 3rd, and this being specific to Washington, Washington sums to 130. Think about how that starts. 1-3. January 3rd, Washington quake. A big one for Mount St. Helens. Mount St. Helens erupted May 18th, 1980. Understand that 1980 was a leap year. And in leap years, May 18th is the 139th day of the year. Special number to the history of Freemasonry. as well as this nation, which was a nation founded by Freemasons, why our capital is named after a Freemason, why the headquarters of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry are in D.C. But notice, Freemasonry, 139. Like America, 139. In reduction, Washington's also 49, so is America. And the day this happened, the 227th day of the year, that's the 49th prime number. And like I just said, the headquarters of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is in Washington. Check this out. Ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, 227. The 49th prime. Washington's headquarters, where the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is. The 187 is a big number too. See the last video I did on Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump, Lisa Simpson. Check it out. Lots to learn. Also important about 227, 22 divided by 7 gives you the number for pi, having to do with cycles and circles. And I'm going to show you how Mount St. Helens has been on a perfect earthquake pattern in recent history, like cycles and circles and history repeating itself. 22 divided by 7 is pi. You learned about pi in geometry. Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, is geometry in language. And check this out. English ordinals, the alphabetic order, 22 divided by 7 equals 314, like pi is 3.14. You see that? So anyhow, 40 earthquakes hit in 4 days. And I'm always teaching about 44 earthquakes. Word earthquake in reduction, 44. Just had a 4.4 in San Francisco by the numbers. For years, our military 44 planted underground explosives over a nearly 5-decade underground weapons testing program. And we have to ask ourselves, what did they do with all of these bombs? Well, I'm showing you what they did. They use them to trigger fault lines, volcanoes, for rituals. This is how insane these people are. These people are ritualistic. They're insane. They have a lot of power. They have a lot of access. This is what they're doing in the world. So Mount St. Helens erupted May 18th, 1980. That was a date with numerology of 122. Right away that pops because Mount St. Helens is on the 122nd meridian, and this number represents a lot of things, including Elohim, the word for God from the Old Testament. 39 chapters. They just said a 3.9 earthquake at Mount St. Helens. Jewish word for God. Freemason in the Francis Bacon cipher. You don't know who Francis Bacon is? Well, you better look him up. He's the reason this nation exists. Freemason that has his signatures all over the King James Bible. A lot of people say William Shakespeare was Francis Bacon. But anyway, in the Francis Bacon cipher, Freemason, 122. Special number. You know, this is the date of the biggest eruption in the Masonic nation, in the history of the nation to date. And the next biggest will probably be Mount Rainier, whenever they got that planned. That's probably when we get to major depopulation point. That could still be decades away. But understand, these psychopaths, they could turn Seattle out overnight if they wanted to. So many people think the New World Order's agenda is to get rid of people. That's, you know, more of their agenda is to control people and use them for their agenda. They are into population control, and someday it'll probably get worse when we're deep enough in the game when they don't need us anymore. But these people move at a slow pace, you know. But understand, they have the tools at their disposal. They probably have the bombs already planted in underground that if they wanted to turn out Seattle tomorrow, they could. Just reactivate Rainier. You know, you have millions of people dead at once. That's why we have to stop these lunatics. Could be a century still before they do it. But this is where they're taking it, slowly. I noticed Mount St. Helens, the full name when written out, sums to 223. That jumped out right away in light of all the Masonic rituals. Mount St. Helens, Washington, in Jewish gematria, 2023. Remember, 223, big number to Masonry. 223, the 48th prime. Freemason equals 48 in Hebrew and in English. With regards to Masonry in 33, Mount, the abbreviation MT 33, Peak 33, Masonry 33, Secrecy 33, Order 33, Federal 33. Again, Masonry's headquarters in D.C., the headquarters of the federal government. They have the House of the Temple. Outside, there are 33 pillars that are each 33 feet tall. George Washington, a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. So you know how it said 40 earthquakes in 4 days? You know, you add the two numbers together in that sentence, it's 44. 40 earthquakes hit Mount St. Helens in 4 days. Earthquake 44. Have you heard about this technology, this military technology, HARP? You know, that has the power to create earthquakes? See that? HARP 44. Remember how Mexico City had an earthquake 32 years to the day earlier this year, September 2017? Bomb 32, earthquake's 32-year anniversary. Check this out. Check this out. Valentine's Day, 2011, Mount St. Helens had its worst earthquake in 30 years. To the day. Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, 30 years apart, the two worst earthquakes at the site of Mount St. Helens. The last one, as it happens, was 30 years ago, also on Valentine's Day. You know, our whole society is full of this shit. The other year, Dallas had those crazy tornadoes, and it was on the anniversary of the last time Dallas had a tornado. You know? They had those big chemical plant explosions down in Texas around the same time. They were on the anniversary of the same day, years apart. They do this stuff to us again and again. But look at this. When I saw Valentine's Day, it reminded me that Oregon, the southern neighbor, the 33rd state, Oregon's 33, Washington's 42. Oregon Territory used to be the whole Pacific Northwest, which Washington became a state out of. But anyway, Oregon's establishment date is Valentine's Day. Oregon, just south of Mount St. Helens. If Mount St. Helens erupted, the people who get the worst of it are Portland, Oregon. That's the biggest concentration of people. The last time Mount St. Helens erupted, people had to go out and clean out their gutters, or they would fall down if it rained. And we get a lot of rain up here. Because the ash was filling up the gutters. Then when the rain comes, it makes it heavy. You see? So people were out cleaning out the ash from their gutters the last time it erupted. Portland, not too far from Mount St. Helens. So anyway, Oregon's establishment date's Valentine's Day. Notice Valentine's Day sums to 74 like Oregon. Good date to establish Oregon. Masonic 74. If you write out 42 as a word, it sums to 74. Here's another good one. George Washington 74. Here's another good one. English 74. Gematria 74. See, this is a Jewish practice 74. Guess who's always run your nation? The false Jews, known as the Synagogue of Satan, which equals 223, like Mount St. Helens. You know? It's all biblical here. There's a letter written to the Church of Philadelphia, 223, about the Synagogue of Satan, the false Jews who will rule in the end times, 223. This is how they do it. They command this military empire. They treat us all like we're stupid. They torment us. They mess with us. They're experimenting. They want to be God. That's what this is all about. This is playing God over people. That's why they did the eruption on 122 day. You know, again, this whole code's from the Bible. Masonry, based in the 39 books of the Old Testament. Masonry 39, 3.9 earthquake. You see this? Secrecy 39. Empire 39. You know, the Empire State, New York, 39, NY 39, NYC 39. United Nations there is 39 floors tall. New York had the World's Fair in 39. Whole nation, Masonic. It's all ritual across the entire thing. So anyway, Truth Seeker, there it is. More undeniable evidence of psychopaths playing God, pretending to be Mother Nature. I'll leave it there. Until next time.